Hello, fellow gardeners and YouTubers. I'm Beverly, also known as Granny Geek, and this is Granny Geek's Garden. Welcome to my February garden tour. Things are really looking sad. We had an extremely wet fall, followed by a nasty winter ice storm, and the garden reflects it. But it can only get better from here, so let's get going. Okay, please excuse the shadows, but it's a really bright afternoon. This is the corner of my front garden. We're right along a state highway, so there's lots of noise, but I'll see what I can do about filtering some of that out. Got a lot of crocus and daffodils. And there's an iris. Let me see if I can move around and get a better shot of this stuff. Okay. There are a number of perennials in here that I'm hoping made it through the winter, but it'll be a while before we'll be able to see that for sure. The first couple of crocus are blooming, which is wonderful. And some new growth budding out on some of the rose bushes that still need to be pruned back. Lots and lots of cleanup to do. But since it's supposed to start raining again tomorrow, we'll see how much of that I can get taken care of in the next day or two before it gets too muddy. This little area is what I refer to as my rock garden. It's full of a lot of perennials, and nothing on my site is level. So this is kind of my quick way to get out of the front yard and down into the sidewalk area. I've got a lot of pots that I put back under shade cloth, but they now need to be cleaned up for the spring. Most of them have bulbs and should put on a nice show here before too long. This area is normally full of a lot of perennials, a lot of lilies, some sedum, and this raised bed hides what used to be the stump of a huge maple tree. 2 winters ago, we had a major ice storm. Prior to that time, my yard was 80% shade. After losing 5 large trees, a couple of which were over 100 years old, we now have an 80% sunny site. My plan this summer is to reduce the size of the grassy area and move in more shrubs and perennials. And also I've got an area across the driveway here. It's kind of a triangle shape. It's full of Himalayan blackberries and all kinds of horrible things that I need to get ripped out of there, and plant some much more pleasant shrubs. they're going to be pretty much direct sun, so I'll need to find some appropriate things to plant. This area is on the west side of the house and is chock full of primarily perennials. I'm anticipating a number of them need to be divided as soon as the temperatures even out and it'll be viable to do such things. And I've got my green stock sitting here that was full of petunias and geraniums. And absolutely, well, you couldn't see the green stalk last year. It was just a tower of flowers. I have other green stalks in the back that I use for growing herbs, and a couple full of strawberries. This area, again, is typically full of perennials that need to be cleaned up, and many of which need to be divided. And as we cross the driveway, we get into an area I call the mailbox garden, which was absolutely gorgeous last year until the neighbor decided to quit mowing his lawn. It went to seed and very thickly seeded my flower bed with grasses. I'm not sure how I'm going to get those cleaned out. Also, we have some pampas grass that I'm in the process of removing about 2/3 of it. And then we get to the east side of the garage. This area, although it's sunny right now, overall it tends to be pretty shady. I've got a few rose bushes in here that have been here for, probably at least 25 years. But I'm waiting to have an opportunity to dig them up and relocate them. They just don't get enough sun here. And we've got a hydrangea here that's starting to bud out. That's exciting. An assortment of heuchera, some tulips coming up. And now we'll move into the backyard area. The backyard is fully fenced to keep my dogs safe. And overall, this area is semi-shady most of the time. Got my gorilla cart sitting here waiting to get filled up with some yard debris to move to the composting area. And on the other side of this lovely fence is a 130-acre natural park full of walking trails, and it's a wonderful place to walk to and feel like you're 100 miles from home instead of in my own backyard. The other part of this area, the decking is actually decking for the jacuzzi deck. And again, there's a lot of work to be done here. And here we see the upper deck. And we'll move back around. This area is fairly narrow between the jacuzzi deck and the park, and needs a lot of work. We ripped out a bunch of very old junipers that were horrible last year and planted up a few shrubs along the front, but they're too small. But we do need to level things out and put a real walkway through here because, as I said earlier, this yard, there is nothing level in it. It's all on a hill, and when this gets wet and mucky, it's quite treacherous. And although it's shady right now, this is normally a very sunny area. At one time, it was lovely. Then I got sick and wasn't able to tend my plants for a number of years. And my husband tried, but the fact is this ended up being a huge patch of crocosmia. I've spent a huge amount of time the last couple of years removing that and replanting some other grasses and shrubs and perennials. But again, that's a work in progress. We've got lots of things to do as the year gets a little bit more conducive to working outside. By the way, I'm actually located in zone 9A, but based on the weather we've had for the last month, I would think it's more like a zone 7A. But anyway, that's as it is, and hopefully we'll get back to a more normal situation soon. Also, 2.5 years ago, we had a major heat event in which, although I'm located in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, we had temperatures reach 115 degrees, which was a record, and it did a lot of damage to a lot of the shrubs and trees. I did a major prune back of a couple of the big rhododendrons that were just in really sad shape. And at least so far this year, it looks like that one at least is starting to come back. Still a lot of work to do. And we're moving into the orchard garden area. This is also under construction. I've got several new raised beds that'll be going in as soon as I can get some bedding soil to fill them with. And we've got several very old and badly neglected apple and cherry trees. The existing raised beds need to be cleaned up. I've still got some leeks that are growing well. And we've got some blackberries, marionberries, an assortment of blueberries, some loganberries. And here we've got some garlic that's growing very nicely. It looks like probably the squirrels dug at least a little bit out there. And we've still got stumps from a couple of the trees we lost a couple years ago. And these were the ones that were well over 100 years old. And as we bring things to an end, we're back to some flower beds. Got a little nectarine tree I planted last year that got quite a bit of new growth coming out on it, and quite a few buds. So it looks like it's adapting to its new home nicely. That's a happy thing to see. And as we come back around in the spring and early summer, this area is really beautiful. The wisteria blooms, and it kind of frames the backyard area, which typically has lots of rhodies blooming and a lot of daffodils and tulips and so on. I'll get some pictures of that when the time is appropriate. And my other gorilla cart full of potting mix to pot up a couple of container plants I'm putting on the garden, or on the deck, excuse me. And that's the end of our tour today. The plan is to do a tour at the beginning of every month, regardless of how good or bad things look. And I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. I hope you get a chance to work in your yard this weekend. And above all else, be kind. Thanks. Bye-bye.